Wow, we actually kind of have some good news this AI Monday, as we're talking about Adobe. Now, at the start of this month, I think it's fair to say that Adobe experienced a pretty embarrassing 24 hours. One day, they announced that they're taking down their Animate software from Creative Cloud to prioritize their aggressive rollout of AI services, and the next, they're completely doing a U-turn on it. Great, because naturally, there was a big tasty portion of backlash right there, and I'm not surprised. This is a service that helped some of the earliest Flash animation out there on YouTube and is still being used throughout the industry even today, especially on the indie front. This tool that made creativity more accessible being taken away so that AI can do it for you instead is perhaps a perfect summary of where we're even at right now. And it just goes to show you the gap between what tech companies think we want as consumers and what people actually desire. And so, Adobe learned this the hard way because, sure enough, creators were quick to make their voice known that they weren't at all happy about this. Obviously. When news came out on February 2nd that downloads of the service would be discontinued on March 1st, that decision didn't even live to see February 3rd, because this program has continued to be a foundational tool for a lot of users across the personal and professional landscape. For those of you who don't know by now, Animate is used for animation in television series, online animations, websites, web applications, game development, and commercials. Still, from Among Us to more recently Smiling Friends, it's at least partially played a role. And its proposed unaliving at such short notice would have had a major impact far beyond casual hobbyists. And it has been around a long damn time under multiple names, starting out as Future Splash Animation back in 1996. So basically, they would have been killing this guy off on their 30th birthday. Charming. A lot of us may know it more from its Flash animation era, which really played in a big role of making several corners of the internet what they are, YouTube obviously being a big one there. And this thing has outlived so much other software that such an abrupt announcement that they were dropping it in like a month really speaks volumes to where the corporation is. And how they have such a strong stranglehold on the animation software market just shows why they had such a goal to make a move like this. And they're still not actively going to be supporting it from now on. It just still will be around in the background. And it all comes as Adobe has been one of the most proactive in their pursuit of AI development. I mean, their flagship program, Photoshop alone, is now absolutely riddled with it. And they're only looking to grow within that business, because Adobe has forged a multi-year strategic partnership with the generative AI video company Runway. Runway's new Gen 4.5, whatever that entails, is now available exclusively in Adobe Firefly and on Runway's platform. Adobe Firefly, by the way, is like their general AI software. When I renewed my yearly subscription of Adobe, because that's unfortunately what I use with Premiere Pro, I was being charged £1,000, 40% more than I was charged last year, and the only way I could bring that number down is if I also installed Adobe Firefly. I don't use it, but they're forcing AI into our hands. I am not far away from going to other alternatives. Now, the Chief Technology Officer of Adobe said, Runway's generative video innovation combined with Adobe's trusted pro workflows will help creators and brands expand their creative potential and meet the growing demands of modern content and media production. A plan that Animate apparently doesn't fit into, being one of the few tools that isn't immediately compatible with Adobe's plan to have AI interfaces available on pretty much all of their software. The two companies will collaborate to develop new AI innovations that will be available exclusively in Adobe applications, which is just the latest example of a tech giant partnering with an AI company like this. Again, if it's not Google, and it's not Disney, and it's not YouTube, it's Adobe. All of the ground beneath our feet. They are taking big swings to be a leading player in the AI business, so the timing of this attempted cancellation of Animate felt like no coincidence. Essentially streamlining customer options away from those few programs that don't revolve around AI. A well-loved and heavily used program? Doesn't matter. We've got to gut all that to roll out the slop instead. These companies don't want people to make their own organic work anymore. They want anything made to be tangled into their AI strands. But I don't think they realize to what extent that people weren't just gonna suddenly go along with that. That's been the running theme with these huge companies and billionaires. They fundamentally overestimate the conformity of the average person. Don't get me wrong, there's a great deal of stuff we do go along with blindly, which kind of led to how we've gotten into this mess in the first place. But in the case of AI, it hasn't been as smooth an acceptance as maybe they would have liked. And the vocal backlash to this particular incident just shows what that backlash can actually lead to. Here's the good news side of things. Hey there! Thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more AI animation news. There is so much to cover, we're practically doing one weekly now, usually on a Monday. And don't worry, I'll always be criticizing it. But for now, let's get back to the second half of Adobe AI. An actual reversal of decisions like this. And it's not just on a morality stance either, as the arguments made focus on the immediate logistical ramifications of businesses that revolve around it. The amount of production that still uses this software doesn't make describing this as a potential industry destroyer seem out of place whatsoever. And then there are people who have just signed up for another year contract of Adobe specifically for Animate, only to then be told that thing will no longer be available. All of these legitimate complaints led to the following statement from Adobe the very next day. Animate will continue to be available for both current and new customers, and we will ensure you continue to have access to your content. There is no longer a deadline or date by which Animate will no longer be available. These are changes from what we shared in our original email. And at this point, one of the more significant parts of that statement for me is new customers. Because there is a different scenario here where Adobe just continued it for a few more years for existing customers. Actively keeping the service around for everyone, on the other hand, at least feels like the service has now become a much more secure predicament. There is one part that may initially seem like a negative for Animate, but in actuality, maybe a pretty good thing ultimately. Maintenance mode means we will continue to support the application and provide ongoing security and bug fixes, but we are no longer adding new features. Animate will continue to be available for both new and existing users. We will not be discontinuing or removing access to Adobe Animate. Because sure, the service will sadly not progress from here on in, which, let's not forget, has probably been a large part of its longevity since 1996. And in the next 5 years, its makeup may seem archaic compared to others, but the big thing to consider here is that this cease in updates means no AI intervention or crowbarring of features into the program anymore. Sure, it has been pointed out that it would inherently be difficult to apply any AI tools in Animate in the first place, but at least this move now secures the fact that they won't be looking to even try to do that, which should leave users a lot happier than they may have been 24 hours beforehand. What's going to be interesting now is whether this gesture is enough to restore the very publicly damaged trust of their user base. I'm still considering deleting my Adobe. And there will be all sorts of others already planning their exit strategy from Adobe Animate now. And understandably so, as this felt like a fundamental misread of a significant division of their customers, with many left feeling that Adobe can no longer be trusted or cares about them. Although, to be fair, if they've been paying attention, they should know Adobe already doesn't care about them for a long time. Their subscription service is predatory, it's overpriced and monopolized, and it's constantly making jams you have to work around rather than be boosted by. This is the customer company equivalent of when a partner apologizes for cheating, but the person impacted now can't look at that relationship in the same way. You know, a cheater is a cheater, and an AI-hungry megacorp is an AI-hungry megacorp. So who's to say the outcry will be the same when they try this again in just a few years' time? If not weeks, knowing by how fast all this AI news is coming at us. Because maybe by then, the customers that once relied on it have thought better and found an alternative. I'm sure some creators and businesses could come together to develop that alternative. I wouldn't be surprised. And it'll be interesting to watch the fallout of this over the next few years. As despite the swift 24 hours of damage control, I don't think people will forget this. And at the same time, I do think longtime users will see this gesture and admission of misjudgment may well restore their faith in the company as well. It may well be Adobe's ugly Sonic moment, where such a huge course correction does just about do the job. But of course, the biggest W out of this whole demonstration is the showcase of what voicing yourself loud enough does have the capacity to do. While it seems like across the board, AI is coming in hard and fast and there's nothing we can do to change it, the fact of the matter is, it can be changed, and in some pockets, it has successfully happened. You can change the game plan of a giant corporation within 24 hours if you just shout about it loud enough. Something to remember across many contexts. For at least this example, it's a victory. But it is hard to ignore that this incident exposed just how many people rely on the services of these companies, and how they really can just suddenly pull those services away. As the user and or customer, they need us for their revenue streams, but they are still the gatekeepers of those giant revenue streams. But at least for now, I think we can celebrate that on March 1st, coming up soon, thousands of people will not be losing their entire livelihoods and canvases for their amazing work. And we'll just have to see what the state of animation is in a few years, when maybe an alternative has already popped up because of this first bump that may very well turn into a ripple. We'll see. For now, though, I'd best finally end it off there. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell us your thoughts on the Adobe AI debacle. Do you use the service? You considered an alternative? Are you already gone? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more. It's nice to hear AI companies flubbing it along the way. But otherwise, I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!